It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. This is Expresso. You're live in S3 and gather around the water cooler because the rumors are true. A 4-day work week may soon be a reality right here in South Africa. The idea of a 4-day week is being adopted all over the world in a bid to improve productivity and wellness in the workplace and attract and retain talent, enhance the lives of families and communities, and improve the environment. To discuss this radical shift in the workplace, we have clinical psychologist Slindile Mbata, as well as chairperson for 4-day Workweek South Africa, Karen Lowe, of course, welcoming both of them to the studio. And of course, if you have any thoughts, look here. Grab your opinions, your thoughts, throw them to me on a voice note, 063-408-8863. Can this thing actually work, or is it actually working already? So, welcome, ladies. A 4-day work week, 2023. I know it's been that type of year where you're thinking, okay, right, now I can work less. It's exciting. However, let's start off with this craving on a psychological level for a reduced week for still perhaps the same salary, you know, without the expense, the time expense. I mean, it's a world of workaholism out there. Where did this need for that sort of 4-day work week paradigm come from, do you think?
Yeah, well, Carl, I think the idea has been around for a very, very long time, for decades, actually. We're already talking about this in the 20th century.
Yeah.
And I think what has happened more recently is that probably with the COVID pandemic, we've seen a lot more impetus to try and think very differently about how we work, where we work, how much we need to work. And so with re-looking, I mean, we've already seen through the pandemic that we don't need to be in the office. You know, for a lot of, there's a lot of jobs where you don't need to physically be in the office. So perhaps I think the idea that we can do hybrid working maybe can lead to other things like, okay, well, should we be looking at the way that we work in general? How much time do we actually need to spend at work? So yeah, I do think that the pandemic has really boosted the need for us to rethink the way that we work.
And I think if you think about the stresses of waking up, getting from your community to your work's community via public transport, all of those things are stresses. Mm-hmm. Now, when you think about 1 day less of that, I suppose the human condition is to say, I'll go for it, no matter what that takes. But
Absolutely.
What does it take? What does it consist of? And that's why we got Karen here. It is an honor. It really is. 4-day work week. It's being implemented and piloted and, you know, just applied, and a lot of great results have come through all over the world. But for anybody who doesn't understand what it actually is, can you put it in a nutshell for us?
Absolutely. It's not a Friday off.
But that's exactly why I needed you to just explain and unpack.
So it's not a Friday off. It's not even a Monday off. I think the 4-day week really is, it's a bit of a misconception out there that it is
Yes.
a day off work. It could be, though. So it could be a long weekend. But I think it's a work time reduction model. It's an experiment where organizations look to participate in a 6-month trial. And, you know, the idea of playing around with a reduced work week is a creative solution to how we take time off consciously and have a conscious rest ethic.
Yes.
But when we're at work being 100% productive. So the model's really simple. It's a 100-80-100 model. So it's 100% pay and 80% of your time, but in return for 100% of your productivity. And I think this is the beauty of the model. You know, the well-being scores in the workplace, they're horrendous. And the pilot participants have seen not just an upswing in the well-being with that reduced time, that gift of time off, but they have a conscious focus on what they're doing when they are at work. So the productivity outputs have been positive, and revenue has been neutral or positive for pilot participants. So you have this wonderful ecosystem of happier, healthier, engaged staff that are consciously taking time off and in a way that makes sense to them and the organization. So it is a co-created, collaborative project that basically said, how do we get this organization to gift a 20% of a work week to an employee for 100% pay in return for their productivity? And that gift of time, it just gives you permission to do things that you would not necessarily do without feeling terribly guilty about doing them.
Oh, yeah, and I'm loving the concept as well, but I mean, it's not a foreign concept because, you know, when visiting Spain, like a siesta is basically a building of 4-day work week, which is interesting. But just on a mental health level, we touched on that. Slee, just to touch on what that could do for an employee. If you think about a 4-day work week as a concept, having a little bit more, 20% more time to yourself, 100% productivity, suddenly you feel like you're in a bit more control. What does that do to somebody in terms of productivity?
Yeah, well, I do think that, Carl, as Karen has mentioned, we'll see much more productivity, people being able perhaps to do a lot more at work. But I think the extra time to rest, or the extra day, the 20% of time that you have, means that you can focus on wellness activities, right? And wellness is different for different people. So for one person, it could be spending time with their kids. For another, it could be being able to cook, being able to go to the gym, being able, for another, could be to, for example, do a little bit of catching up on that admin work, but knowing that you're not going to have somebody hounding you, being at the office. So it might be for you that your definition of well-being is, okay, wow, I have an extra day to sort of prepare myself for the week ahead. And I think it has a huge implication on people's wellness, and it could really see decreased rates of burnout as well, because you do have that extra time for yourself.
And that's what it is. It is time for yourself. In fact, 20% more. Of course, we'll unpack a little bit more on this a little bit later. So if you'd have any sort of opinions or thoughts as to if this will work in your industry, 063 408 8863. We'll be back with more on 4-day work week in the next couple of minutes.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to Feel Good Breakfast Show. Expresso here in S3, and we're back with our panel discussing the idea of a 4-day work week featuring clinical psychologist Lindile Mbata, as well as chairperson for 4-day work week South Africa, Karen Lowe. Now, of course, if you have any thoughts or opinions, share it please via voice note 063 408 8863. Karen, 4-day work week. It is here. 1st of March, I believe, the project, it starts. I'd like to just know, first and foremost, with regard to, there are so many industries out there, all right? And the implementation of 4-day work week, I suppose it's not a one-size-fits-all, is it? Because I'm thinking about blue-collar workers, people who've been working the Monday to Friday on the conveyor belt, so to speak. How do you fairly apply a 4-day work week across industries, or every company that said, I want to do this, how do you actually fairly implement this entire project?
Carl, it's very interesting when you consider a gift of time.
Yes.
Because it's a universal incentive. So that incentive is applied equally from the most junior staff member to the most senior, and it can be applied in any industry. But you need to be creative with how you work with that time off. So you can reduce shift time. So if you work half day, you can reduce that half day by 20%. But it has to work for the organization, and it has to work for the employee. And the solution does not come from top senior management. It comes from people within the teams and the departments that they're working in. So as a team, you need to have a bottom-up, opt-in, voluntary approach to how you do this.
Yes.
You need to get that team together and say, how do we keep productivity going? How do we make sure we produce what we do and we do it well, and we don't drop off in that? Secondly, we don't want to increase the intensity of the hours. The last thing we want to do is try and cram it all in into that less time that you have. But the team is responsible for each other's time off, which means the problem solving happens there. They have the answers. They're on the floor. They're in their roles. They know where they're wasting time, where they can be more efficient. And sometimes cross-department interaction is fabulous because they give ideas. So my graphic designer actually told me that I was the one wasting time in the organization.
Oh. Because
I don't brief correctly. So actually, you get that. So how do we be more efficient as an organization?
Okay.
That's the conversation. So it's collaborative. It's really about finding a solution that works from industry to industry. And there's basically not one industry that hasn't done it. Construction, an emergency medical center in New Zealand. We've got ICT companies, fintech. We've got a bank in the UK. So we've got retailers, manufacturers. It's easier in the knowledge work environment. Of course it is. It's easier where you're running billable hours, lawyers, etc., head offices. But it is possible within manufacturing, retail banking, and those kind of environments. But it is more challenging to find that model that works for you.
Challenging speaks to transition. Transition
Absolutely.
needs work, and work needs it's planning, because if you don't plan, you plan to fail. So this is exactly what we want to do. But the transition itself is going to have a psychological impact. There are going to be people who have been living this 5-day work week thing in their heads for the longest time. as soon as your company says we're going to do a 4-day work week, and already you're swamped with 5 days, and they, people, that's saying, oh, there's just so many hours in the day and I cannot fit it in, that can cause a lot of anxiety. So let's unpack that for a second. Transitioning to this concept of 4-day work week, what are some of the impacts, and how do you feel we should reframe it to try and navigate this, what could be a new normal?
Yeah, I mean, Carl, I think it's fair to have some apprehensions about, change and how to do things in a very different way. So I think it would be normal to have some anxieties about this. However, I do think that what the thinking around 4-day work week will do is possibly help to sort of streamline how effectively we work.
Yeah.
So you might start looking at, as Karen was saying, where are hours wasted? Are you spending time on social media? During work, sometimes you get bored and you're not doing as much as you could be doing. So I think it would have to come down to each individual person to really look at, okay, really, how am I using my time, and where could I use it more effectively, perhaps to get tasks done? So I think the idea, as Karen was saying, is not to intensify, but rather, I think, to work much more effectively with the time that you do have, and rather figure out how do I use that more effectively. So I think it will come down to the individual. I think it will come down to teams collaborating, talking together to see how they could get creative about coming up with solutions.
I think what I'm hearing here as a narrative is that collaboration, this actually might be a catalyst for that in organizations. They may get together and make a plan with the 4-day work week. We've got one more session. If you have any questions, any opinions, please share 063-408-8863.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to Expresso. And if you've just joined us, just woken up, goeiemorgen, good morning. We're chatting about a 4-day work week. Yes, it is happening. In fact, there is something massive happening on the 1st of March. But of course, we have our panel who is still with us. And we've got Karen Lowe, who is the chairperson for 4-day work week South Africa, and Sleem Bata, of course. She's going to be giving us some psychological references to how a 4-day work week will affect the workforce in South Africa. Before we get there, we've got some voice notes that you have sent through on 063-408-8863. Let's listen to the first.
Hi, Expresso. I'm Mandela Skosana, and personally, I am against the 4-day work week. Why? Because less work would be done. If we only work 4 days a week, obviously there will be less production, and if there is less production, there will be less income, and if there is less income, there will be less profit. Therefore, I am against it. I'm really against it. I don't see the need for it. We've gotten used to working 7 days a week, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, and we need to keep it that way. There is no need for the 4-day week work. So thank you. That's my opinion.
No, but thank you very much. All opinions are definitely accepted, and that's why we love this particular WhatsApp line, because if you feel in a certain way, of course, hopefully we have some time to just unpack exactly what you mean by that as well. But before we get there, another voice that has come through.
Good morning, Feel Good Expresso team. Mrs. Nirmala Devi Murdia from Kumars. If whatever your business entails and productivity can be manifested if efficiently in 4-day week work, then so be it. Implement it. But otherwise, we don't want to be turning any more lethargy into our country. We've got enough of it already. Stay blessed. Take the proper decision for your company purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. So you sound like an ambassador. I love that, okay? And as you can see, polarity in the opinions, but that's exactly why we're having this discussion. One more voice note from you.
Good day, Expresso. A 4-day week would be amazing. As teachers, we need that rest. However, I'm someone that will actually miss work. So how does that impact your mental health when you actually enjoy your work and you want to be at work and so forth? Yeah.
All right, so we got a couple of opinions from you, and thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's very bold to put a voice note on national television and, of course, have our panel to discuss it. But, of course, as you can feel, have you found that in the implementation of the concept of 4-day work week that we've had people who have said, we're used to 5-day work weeks, we're used to 7 days, don't change it. Then you've got people who have said, pick the right, sort of situation for your own company. Then you've got people who are thinking about, hey, teachers, 4-day work week, can you cover a syllabus in less time? a lot of permutations for this entire thing. And how have you navigated all of the differing opinions?
Carl, I think the starting point is to ask questions and to understand that it's a polarizing conversation. It is. But what we're doing is challenging a 100-year-old way of working. 5 days a week was set up 100 years ago for the manufacturing sector. And I think time has moved on. COVID has accelerated what we've had to deal with. And I don't think there's ever been a more important time in South Africa with our young workforce, with high levels of unemployment, with an energy power crisis, for us to take a moment to ponder, can we be more efficient at work? Can we improve productivity? We need growth. We need revenue positive results. But I think more importantly, we need well-being in the workplace. And if your staff are not well, and we are seeing an increasing prevalence of mental health issues in the workplace, our well-being scores are critical, one of the worst in the world. And that's the lucky ones that have jobs. So I think this ecosystem of, you know, let's be well at work, and let's be productive at work, and let's give ourselves permission to do that. Let's give ourselves as employers and employees permission to do that. I don't think there's a perfect model. There's no silver bullet. I can't say, this is your productivity experiment sorted out, this is how you're going to approach it. But the challenge is, let's have a mature conversation about being more productive. Let's stop obsessing about time and obsess what we do with that time. And let's give our staff and our employees an opportunity to show up in the best way that they possibly can. Happy, healthy, engaged. That's a reduction in absenteeism, which is direct cost to bottom line. That's no more quiet quitting. There's so many benefits to both the employer and the employee. And I think South Africa is ready, and there will always be pioneers and early adopters. Always, it's the same as all around the world.
Yeah, very true.
But South Africa is ready.
Slee, so talking about that, just very quickly, is this a chance for us to redefine productivity? Is this a chance for us to say, it doesn't mean you work more hours in the day, I work harder than you? Are we willing and able, as South Africa, in your opinion, to start changing the narrative around productivity?
Yeah, I think absolutely. There are going to be differing opinions about this, you know, Carl, but I do think what we're really talking about is achieving some kind of balance, right?
Yeah.
How can we start to think about enhancing the well-being of employees? Because as Corinne has mentioned, we do have a mental health crisis, you know, amongst working people. So you really need to think, okay, how could we make sure that perhaps people have more time to focus on wellness? How could we make sure that people are well rested, you know, and perhaps less stressed, less sick, and have, you know, fewer sick days? Because I think also that means, it could actually mean that the company is more effective in what they're doing in the time that they have.
Yeah.
And you're not losing money, you know, paying people who are not at the office because they're not able to be there. So I think really what we are talking about is balance, and not so much looking at the hours you work, but how well are you and how effective are you in being able to do what is needed.
You two are absolutely amazing. I think this concept is interesting, and it's going to pan out beautifully in 2023. Thanks a lot to Karen Lowe, of course, the chairperson of 4-Day Workweek, as well as Slee Mbata, psychologist, to look at this. And thank you for your opinions as well. It's coming to 2023. Is your company ready, and are you ready? That's up to you.